Witchy Woo Woo.
Wow.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Sex Ed For You podcast, where research meets reality.
This is the podcast for people who want to date and have great sex that is safe, fun, and enjoyable.
We desire to empower our listeners to make informed decisions that lead to values-based living. Welcome. I am Lauren. I am a certified holistic sexuality educator.
And I'm Holland, and I am our Chief Culture and Content Coordinator.
It's still so new. It's fresh. It's like new relationship energy.
Yep. It's like CC. I think I'm going to start calling it CC and CC.
Like BDSM.
Or the Quad C.
The Quad C is fun. Yeah.
Quad C.
Trey's already been like trying to give it like a new ring. He also loves the title.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. No, he's like, that is so like on the nose perfect. And I'm like, we like it. We like a clear and concise, everybody's consenting to the title.
We do.
And an alliteration. A little alliteration.
I was like,
So I was just going to
did you see me buffering?
Yes, I did. She was like, what did she say? Are we going to fix
I want
that
to agree with
sound?
you, but I'm not sure.
I'm embarrassed by your inability to speak today. So we want to talk about like crunchy woo-woo moon witchy shit today.
Yeah.
Okay, this podcast where research meets reality. Here's the thing. We love research. We are nerds. We love it. We also really love studying the moon, the earth, our cycles, the effects, energy, and situations and circumstances have on our bodies. And we like to tune into that. And Helen is currently menstruating.
And I shouldn't be. Hear me out. This is what started it.
And I shouldn't be.
I shouldn't be. Because I have an Oura Ring, which Oura, please sponsor me. I love you. I have already literally sent 3 new people to you. Please sponsor us. I love Oura.
I really would like an Oura. So like if you need to, as part of the sponsorship, send another Oura.
Don't worry, we already have a trying kit. I'll get her sized. You don't need to do any work except send us a free one. Oura Ring tracks your temperature, which is literally the reason I got it, because we've been seeing natural cycles. I think natural cycles is an incredible platform. They're great. It's the only hormone-free, FDA-cleared birth control. It is incredible. And they do that by tracking your temperature. If you don't know this, your temperature changes throughout your cycle as a woman. It goes up and down depending on your ovulation and your cycle and different phases that you're in. So Oura does this incredible thing where I at first had subscribed to like the free trial of natural cycles that pairs the two. Works really well. I have a couple friends that do it that way. But as I got into it, I realized I don't really need the natural cycles part of it because we
love you, natural cycles.
We love you, truly.
And I think for some people it's necessary.
Yes.
But
however,
continue.
I'm really informed. I know a lot about the cycle and the body and the temperatures. And so like for me, I just already know that it's the 5 days around the temperature spike when I'm ovulating, that's when I'm fertile. So I just know these things, which you can too if you read my blog and start listening to the podcast consistently. But yeah, so my temperature is tracked through Oura, and I typically have a 28 to 30 day cycle. Day 1 is the day you start your period, and then it counts from there. I typically ovulate around day 16 to 17, a little bit later in the cycle. And yeah, it's just, I know these things about my body. Well, my period was supposed to start, today is Tuesday, supposed to start Friday. 4 days, however you want to count that, from today. And I started Sunday. I started spotting on Sunday. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Because I am like, this is way too early. And then a lot of craziness happened this weekend too. The doors were revisited. We'll put it that way. Just weird things happened. And then Lauren sent me something on Sunday and she was like, oh my God, it was this full moon, like this huge full moon. It meant all of this, and that. And like, you're going to revisit things and you'll have, this new view, this new perspective on it. And, you'll be smarter, wiser than the last time you were at the same door. And I was like, okay. we didn't need to get that specific, Miss Moon, Miss Girl. You didn't need to come for me so directly. Like, it was intense. And so then I put it together. I was like, oh my God. Like, of course I started bleeding with the full moon, because I literally remember waking up in the middle of the night on Saturday evening and feeling like my body doing like PMS symptoms. And like, I typically, welcome, there's no such thing as TMI here. I typically start bleeding, like spotting, for about 3 to 4 days before I really start my period. So I'll spot for like a day, and then there's pretty much nothing, and then I start 3 or 4 days later. So I did my little spot thing at 3 a.m. on Saturday night, and I was like, this is weird. I shouldn't be even spotting yet. Like, I shouldn't even be starting. Little did I know the full moon peaked at 3 a.m. that night. So, Lauren, take it away.
It's just amazing. Like, it's just amazing. And I think that if you take into consideration all of the things that were meant to be viewed, observed during this full moon, but then you also take into account that menstruation is an opportunity to slough off the accumulated stress of being a person with a uterus, of holding things, of holding emotion. I just thought, of course your wise body would. Now, let me say, sex said for you, or research meets reality. I was just reading some research the other day about how your period isn't late or early. You ovulated early or late. So let's get back to, like, let's follow up on some research on that, because I was like, that's interesting. So did your body ovulate much earlier because of other things in your orbit? Because, like, fertility is wild too, right? Like, that desire that we often talk about, that would be freaking cool too, wouldn't it?
I actually did ovulate early this cycle too. Yeah.
Right.
I remember it so vividly because, y'all, I am like the picture perfect representation of the cycle. Like, I can tell from the way my body is feeling, like, oh, she's ovulating, because, oh my God, I should be chained to a tree like a werewolf during a full moon. This is insane. So yeah, I definitely did ovulate early.
So just interesting. And
Yeah.
so that might be fun to look at, to be like, oh, okay, well, if I, if we went back to a couple cycles and we looked at your peak ovulation and we looked at the day you started counting those many days,
Right.
and then we looked at that day to this day, would it actually align? That would be cool. That would be cool, just because, again, y'all know that I was raised in super religious culture, and people now will say, like, what do you believe in? And I'll say magic and miracles, because I think let me change it. I know that it sits in my body best to think of some loving spirit, Mama Jesus, the divine, whatever, that loves me and is looking out for me and gives me things like, this is why it's the Witchy podcast, the full moon, to release things, and knows that I am going to see people, do things, do shit, all on the full moon. And it just makes me feel more loved. It makes me think that somebody out there, one of my favorite podcast people calls it your cosmic best friend. And I like that one too. Like, there's something greater happening. I am a part of a collective whole, like a tapestry being woven together. And that's why I sent you that thing of like, whoa, yeah. I was researching for Hemlock, shout out, join our monthly membership program. And just reading about this Capricorn full moon, it was the second Capricorn full moon. We had one in June. This was like another. And it was asking us to revisit places we've already been, experiences we've already had, relationships. It was saying, we'll come back up. You'll have a chance. It literally said things like renegotiate. And we had just renegotiated your contract. I was literally like, whoa. Yeah. And it said the tendency would be to be frustrated of, I have already been here. I'm reading this, and Holland had literally texted, like, SOS texting the night before, and we're like being there for each other, holding space. I trust you. You've got this type of texting. And then the next day I'm reading this, and I was like,
it all makes sense.
Yeah. And, you know, I think the tempting route would be, oh, woe is me. This is so hard. This is so bad, which I think is how many of us who menstruate view menstruation in general. Hate this, right? Oh, wish I didn't have to bleed. I know that you and I have both worked to be like, nope, as much as it would be convenient to just skip over this, something can be revealed to me. And so when I was reading this, it felt so akin to that.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, we need to silver lining everything and spiritually bypass or bliss bypass. But like, what if this is for us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to see that there's deeper meaning in it. It's not that you need to like skim over what's happening. It's not that it's less painful. It's not that sometimes having your period doesn't suck, because sometimes it really does. I've had some horrible periods recently.
Same.
And I'm not discounting that by any means. Like, I am just saying that there tends to be a reason, and having purpose for things like that does help me see like the greater picture of it. Being pulled into this full moon and like having my body being pulled into it. Also for background, I guess, I was kind of pondering this the other day. Lauren thinks it's because I might be a projector. Well, I know I'm a projector, but we think it might be because I'm a projector that I'm so pulled into the moon. I've always been very pulled into that feminine aspect of the earth, which is my version of your mama Jesus, of whatever the universe is, our divine creator. I connect so deeply with the earth and water and the moon and just like those really grounding feminine aspects of like this planet that we inhabit. And I've always felt pulled towards running water and beautiful things that are connected and cyclical typically. And so it's always been interesting to me now that I've been off of birth control for coming up on 2 years, which is beautiful and incredible. Highly recommended. Talk to your doctor first. But anyway, I am really stepping into like this pace with my body of like, oh, okay, I know how to listen to you now, and I know what you need. And when I have early periods like this, instead of being like, oh my God, what the fuck is wrong with me? I more so feel like, oh, something's happening. Like I need to listen. I need to check in with myself. What's going on? What's going on in the earth? What's going on in space? What's going on with me and my body? And like you said a few minutes ago, like sloughing off, like this weekend was a weekend for me to get the hell out of what had been happening for the past year. I mean, we're also at my 1-year anniversary of living here.
Cheers.
Like all of these things are accumulating. And this summer specifically has been the summer of change for me, the summer of adaptation, of becoming, of really stepping into what I can tell is this next phase of my life. I knew this like past year, big change for sure, but change in a way that was transitional. Whereas like this next step feels like I'm stepping into something. I am stepping into whatever this next version of me is and needs and wants and will be. And that feels very different than this last year that's been very chaotic and transitional in a beautiful way. But I feel like I'm catching my stride and I'm really hitting that pace. And for this period, this menstruation to come so early on this weekend of a full moon and on this weekend of seeing people from what feels like a past life and really having to ground myself in who I want to be and not who I was. That was huge for me this weekend. Instead of freaking out, granted, the minor freakouts occurred, but I also like journaled. I sat with myself. I found peace within myself and called upon people that I knew. I called my best friend. I called you. Like I had grounding moments of, you are at the store again, Holland, and you don't want to be here. You don't want to be seeing these people, like this person, but that's what you know better now. You know better now. You are wise. You can trust yourself. There was never any feeling of like, oh, I need to be saved, or, oh my God, what if I do something wrong? It was very much like, you're here and you're capable. You are capable of being who you are within this presence and unwaveringly choosing yourself. You don't need that person anymore. And it was a really weird shift, and it was really empowering. What are you looking up?
The mindful menstruation questions that we ask.
Oh, yeah. I love the mindful menstruation questions.
Me too. And I was like, let's just say them out. I don't know if we already have a download of just the questions.
I believe so.
Not the whole plan, just the questions, because that might just be a really fun download.
We'll make it a download. The code's going to be witchy, by the way.
You got to type witchy. And
but yeah, sitting and we do have day one is like journaling.
Well, I know.
And so it was interesting to me that night, it was the night of the full moon. And I was like, I just need to write. I just need to journal. There's so much that I need to get out, that I need to release, which is so much of what menstruation is.
Yeah. So you think about these, and then if anything jumps out, you can follow up on this on this podcast, but mostly these are for the audience. So like if you're driving, y'all think about this. If you want to save this episode for your next menstrual cycle, if you're not a person who menstruates and you want to share this with someone who does, these are adapted from the work of Dr. Christine Page. She's a well-known teacher, author, medical doctor who also stepped kind of into witchy magic. What dreams or fantasies am I holding on to that will never be fulfilled? What friendship or relationship cannot be revived? Where am I giving love in the delusional belief that it will be reciprocated? What expectations do I carry that can never be fulfilled? Where am I procrastinating? And what am I afraid will happen if I make a decision? What activities no longer stimulate me or enable me to grow? Where am I still attached to my own stories from the past because they evoke emotions such as anger, pain, disappointment, and shame? What seeds of wisdom do I need to glean from the situation that will allow me to move on? What beliefs am I holding on to that are limiting the freedom to be me? And what situation am I clinging to that offers security and little else? For those who don't menstruate, either because of a hysterectomy, a medical menopause, you're in a body without a uterus, I encourage these to be asked ironically every full moon. Because I think as human beings, we find ourselves stuck in stories that we no longer identify with, and that by having a process of editing, we start to actually live our lives. These are important questions to ask. And sometimes you do find yourself in a transitional season like Holland was in, or like I was in post-divorce, where everything is kind of up in the air. You're making decisions on the fly. That's beautiful. And then you get to a point where you're like, oh, whoa, I'm in a different place now. I need to make different decisions, and I need to release some things. These are things I literally have been asking myself since I stumbled onto this, I think in 2018, every single solitary menstrual cycle. And it's when I talk about schluffing, it's all of that. So anyway, did any of those like jump out to you?
I mean, I think honestly, I didn't even pull these up on Saturday evening. I was just like, I need a safe space to vent what the hell is going on in my head right now. And that was what was coming up. It was these relationships are not helping me. This is only providing security and nothing else. I am only like all these feelings of like, oh my God, like I'm being held back. Like I could feel almost like this sense of being tugged on from my, honestly, from like kind of like my ribs. Obviously that's internal, but it was very much like, I don't feel like this is right. Yeah, and I just so badly needed to rid myself of what felt like such overwhelming presence in my mind, because it's all internal. It's all something that I was just living with in my own head, but I just needed to put voice to them. And it gave me such power to be like, oh, this is why I'm not feeling good about this.
Which, when we say here at Sex Ed for You that human beings have within them the inherent ability to solve their own problems, this is what we mean. By attuning to herself, by saying, hey, I'm here. Holland was able to do some self-reflection, some self-journaling that showed her answers. Even if she couldn't extricate herself from the situation in the moment, to be able to have that cognizance within self and then express delight for self to say like, hey, okay, we got this. I've been really reading about recently this idea of turning towards the things that have triggered us, turning towards it and getting curious about it, which is what I feel like you did, even in pain, which is unbelievably hard. Especially you're such an emotional person who is so present with their emotions. Me, I'm like, meh, let's view this in a logical way. We'll handle the emotions later. So then they come out later, usually when I menstruate. But I think this combo of full moon, emotional subject matter, plus menstruation, it's like the earth herself was like, hello, darling.
Literally, that's what it felt like. And on top of that, too, let's add a fourth thing. I was at the frickin' lake.
Yeah, like with water.
I was in water all day, which is so, and it was raining earlier that day, too. Like, I am so connected to so many of these things. And it was just, it felt literally like almost your mama Jesus of the few weeks prior of like, girl, you need to ponder, you need to think, you need to journal, because, ooh. Like something's coming. Like I almost feel like I haven't even said this to you yet today. Like I genuinely going to sleep last night was like, something's coming. I don't know what it is, but I feel it. Something is coming. And the word, like the number 8 keeps coming, like 8 days for some reason.
Okay, let's write it down. Yeah.
So I don't know. Check back in next Thursday, I guess.
So many things came to mind when you were like, something's coming. I thought that we need to prepare. We need to make way, right? I think one of the things we should be looking at from scriptural texts and as other things is when something great was coming, you make way. You make room for. If you're having guests, you prepare a room. You create space. Right. And I think often we all get frustrated that we can't achieve the next thing. It's because we haven't made frickin' space. There's no space for it. And we were saying, let's wrap this into the work stuff too. You all were here, if you're faithful listeners, on one of the previous podcasts where we talked about demotions and emotions and the way Holland and I struggled through. Let's figure this out. Let's renegotiate. Let's relook at this so we can make space, because there's no way we can continue to grow if it's like this. If you're in bitterness and I'm in frustration, nothing's going to flow in. The universe knows. It's going to be like, you two couldn't handle that. Yeah. Right? So we had these hard conversations. We struggled through it. We opened up space in Holland's life for her to start looking at some of our back end systems. I mean, y'all, stuff that shouldn't be witchy woo woo. She had a super frustrating day looking at that. But then today we sat down for our normal Tuesday staff meeting. And wouldn't you know, the universe brought us through a Google search, a product that we have been looking for a year. Since you moved here. Yes. This whole idea of relooking at something with new eyes. Why we didn't find this on our Google searches last year, I don't know. It's literally like it was made for us. We spent all morning being like, oh, we like sounded orgasmic as we were working. And it felt so easy. Yeah. But we were saying this wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had done the other stuff. No. We couldn't have gotten to it. We wouldn't have been ready for it. But because we had done the hard work, the difficult work, the what needs to be released, what fantasies are we clinging to, right? This fantasy of Holland continuing to be the director of operations needed to be let go of. We needed to have something else that was true and real. And I just find that over and over. So it got me so excited when you were like, I feel like something's coming. I was thinking, then let it go. Because things can't come in if there's like a full house.
No, there's not room.
No. We have to slough things off. And I know it's scary, right? This idea of structures as security, relationships as security. I know we all want it. And yeah, not knowing what's on the other side can be horrifying. It just can. And when that happens, I like to look back at times in my life where I did like follow the intuition, take the brave step. You coming here is always such a beautiful example to me of you didn't know what was going to happen, but you did have to let go of all the other stuff behind and did it. And I do think that things work out for our good. You and I were texting about this a little bit, that in the Christian scriptures, this concept of all things are working together for your good and according to those who love him is this idea in scripture that like God is setting your path. Mm-hmm. The way I think it can get really scary is like, yeah, everything's ordained and blah, 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 especially in the Presbyterian religion.
Frozen chosen, baby.
Y'all, it gets real scary, so we're not going to go all there. But I think there is something comforting to it as, right, there is love guiding.
Yeah.
And, okay, so with like something's coming, last thing, also made me think of childbirth. Because when somebody is birthing something new, I always remind my clients when they are birthing ideas, versions of themselves, that there's this place in childbirth called transition where you're moving into 7 centimeters and you're moving into the 7 to 10 space where you go from active labor to fully dilated, ready to enter the pushing stage. Everyone, I have been at hundreds of births, says, I can't do this at that exact point. Because it is basically this point of no return. There's no going back at that point. The body is opening. It is releasing. It is literally following these instinctual urges. And the best doulas in the world will look at a client in the eyes and go, oh, you're already doing it. There's nothing more to do. Mm-hmm. You're doing it. Something's coming, yes, so you just do what you know to do. You listen to your body. You let it release. You moan. You groan. You hold grape nut pouches on your lap. And you say, I'm here. I'm listening. I'm attuning, which is what you did. How did it feel to be attuning to self in the midst of other, like in the midst of people?
Well, I believe it must be also stated that I was inebriated.
Substances can contribute to some of our peak erotic encounters and some of our peak spiritual encounters. Yeah, it's okay. Like
it was a late day. I had been drinking all day. I had made Jello shots with my roomie, and we were having a good time.
But
I
was
safe
Jello
and happy.
Shot the other day.
Oh my God! Congrats.
Times. Thanks.
These were really good. We made them. They were lemon. So, yeah, I just feel like that adds some color to the whole thing. I had spent the latter part of the evening upset. I had just heard things. I had heard somebody say something, and it made me feel really frustrated and sad, honestly. I just felt sad and rejected and alcohol and alone and lonely and just a lot of negative emotions were bubbling up. And it was just feeling really overwhelming, plus being drunk. And I was like, oh my God, I can't handle this. So one of my friends saw that in my eyes, grabbed me, threw me out on the front porch, brought me dinner, and we had a little girl dinner out on the front porch with me just crying my eyes out. Good. I was just sobbing, surrounded by girls that love me really well. And it was incredible. It was exactly what I needed. Kind of. It was so good to have that in the moment. Mm-hmm. But I also knew, I was like, this isn't it. Like there's more. This is not it. This is fine. This is good that I'm talking to these girls that I know love me, but there's something deeper than this is what I could feel. Because I just knew that it just didn't feel complete.
Yeah, almost like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Right. You needed to have food, comfort for the tears, for the kind of like the high level needs, but you were aware that there was something else below.
So then, the night progressed. I still had a beautiful time.
Both can coexist. Isn't that so wild? Like people can say all the time, like, I had no idea. And it's like, yeah, but the other thing was happening too.
Yeah. I washed my face, went back outside. All was well. But then at the end of the night, I was still like, I felt drained. I think a lot of it is too, I am a projector. My battery was dead because we had been there since 10 a.m. in the morning. And it was now 9 p.m. And I'm like, I can't people anymore. No more people. Can't do it. Yeah. So that's when I went and I found my purse and grabbed my journal and my pen. You will literally never catch me anywhere without a journal.
You won't.
So pulled out my journal, grabbed my pen, and sat outside with everybody. I mean, people were playing cornhole, people were still drinking, and I just sat there and was just writing. And writing. People would talk to me, and I would it almost felt like I heard them in like a distanced world. And I just was separate. I just didn't raise my head, kept my head down, was just writing. I have gone back and reread it. You can tell Homegirl was a little inebriated. There were some repeated words. There's like one time where I restart the story fully from the beginning.
Did you write it in you'll sometimes do like third person, almost like
sometimes
young teen graphic novel.
This was very much like first person. Like, I am sad.
Good.
I want to go home. Mm-hmm. That was a lot of what was written. This wasn't supposed to happen. He wasn't supposed to be here. I am sad. Da. Just like writing, just really getting out what I couldn't say to these people that are mutual friends, things that I felt were not safe to say in this container. And so I was just getting all of it out, and it felt so grounding to have chosen myself in a way that felt really bold in the moment, because I'm sitting on a couch in a freaking silver bikini because it was pirate weekend. So I was dressed as the treasure because I am the treasure. So I'm wearing a silver bikini with almost 50 golden Mardi Gras beads around my neck. Everybody's drunk. It's having a good time. And I'm sitting there choosing to journal. And I was like, this feels really bold, as silly as it is and it was against the flow is what it felt like in my body. I was like, I know that I'm not doing what everyone else is doing. And I know that people are noticing that I'm not participating, that I'm not just sitting on my phone, because that's a different avenue of choosing to not be present, is just choosing to be on your phone. But that's a socially acceptable one. Whereas I'm sitting here writing, and I know damn well that some of these people at this party know that I'm writing about them. And I'm like, I don't care. I need this. And it had nothing to do with anybody else, was the best part. Like, it wasn't vengeful. It wasn't intentional in any way against anyone else. It was fully just, this is what I need right now. This is what I need.
You know how we talk all the freaking time about noticing, trusting, and valuing what we need, want, and desire. Yeah. And that sometimes the person that we are communicating this need to is ourselves. Mm-hmm. It is ourselves that grant us permission, that provide us the thing that we need if we will just take it. Mm-hmm. If we will just say, hey, self, may I sit here and journal because I've got to attune to my own needs right now. And if self says, yes, you may, then we have done this complete little cycle inside of self, because in that moment, I just love what you were saying. It wasn't somebody else's to come and rescue you.
Yeah.
This had little to nothing to do with other people. It had almost everything to do with you. Was a substance present that probably amplified this, plus hormones? Yes, but it doesn't make it any less true. Mm-mm. And the more we try to push it down and ignore it, that's when we hurt people. We say unkind things. We hurt our own bodies. But sitting there journaling, rage journaling, doing whatever we need to do, doesn't hurt anyone.
Mm-mm. No one's ever going to read it.
It's not for others' eyes.
No. And it was literally just, I think the main thing I needed out of it, what I felt in my body that I just needed from journaling, was my ability to take a very chaotic, neurospicy brain that is yelling thousands of things at me. You are alone. You are not wanted. You are tired. You are exhausted. You're drunk. You're acting stupid. All of these thoughts. And just channel them into what is real, what is true, what is intrusive thoughts versus what am I actually truly believing. That is what journaling does for me. So it took this chaotic, like, loudness of a mind and turned it into, this is what I believe, this is real. I don't have to listen to the rest of it. I don't have to feel this anxiety-induced cloud of chaos. I can sit here and I can sift through it. I can tell you, when I sit down and write, that is when I know what is real.
In Emotional Agility, Susan David's work.
Beautiful cover.
She talks about, I bet I have it here, the idea of journaling and how 20 minutes of journaling can literally heal your soul. And that there's this guy, Penny Baker, love his name. I thought I could find it because that's how much I use this. Penny Baker took this group of 60-year-old men who were all let go from their same machinery job at the exact same time. And Penny Baker was like, I want to do some research on journaling. So he took 50% of the men and he said, this is your job for 20 minutes a day. We want you to journal. We want you to say, this experience is teaching me. I have learned this. I am excited about the opportunity for this, but mostly this is teaching me. I am learning. That's all. Of those two subsets, okay, the 50% who journaled, every single one of them got hired again at another place of employment. The 50% who did not, 0 of them got hired because these were 60-year-old men. And they were all like despondent of who's going to hire a 60-year-old machinist who has only done one thing for all of their lives.
Wow.
All 100% of the journalers who journaled only for 20 minutes a day and only thought about, this is what I bring to the world. This is who I am. These are the intrusive thoughts. This is what I'm learning. All of them got hired.
Those numbers are insane.
Insane. And of course, it was a small survey, right? Like we need to look at population and blah, blah, blah. It's such a simple story to tell because everything in life has an opportunity to teach us something. Again, not bliss bypassing. No, that's not what you were doing.
No.
Opposite. You were going, okay. Yeah. All the thoughts flying in. I have a journal somewhere right behind me with almost the same exact things, except it was like a night after a situation. And me being like, why does this hurt?
Yeah.
Right? This hurts. Okay,
Why?
fine. Why? Where is the hurt in my body? Because I don't think anything happened that it was non-consensual. Nope, it's not that. I don't think I was promised anything more. No, not that. For me, I was like, what? I need to get clear on what hurts. And then I was like, oh, right. It came to me. This is what hurts. Okay. Well, that's a good want. How about you go pursue that want?
Pursue the want.
Where you can actually have it met. And how about you honor that want and you get out of spaces where people aren't interested in providing that for you. It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. This is not about other people and making them all these villains in my life. It's about me being my own freaking heroine and moving out. Being like, okay, this was great. I got to move on. Like in my own heroine's journey of like, okay, visited this space. Thanks. This was really good for me. Got to go on now. And sometimes I think we talk a lot about breakups. We don't talk a lot about friendship endings, and I really take this approach that some humans are meant for seasons.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean anything about them or us, that they are meant to be people we find along the way, but they might not stay. And I love that in that list of questions, she says, like, what relationships am I holding on to? Because what happens when we still cling to them is the bitterness and frustration. And I just really find it fascinating that you were like, I need to journal. Because, Susan David would be like,
Because I knew in my logical brain, so emotional for sure. I am very emotional, but I also intertwine it with a lot of logic.
Yeah.
And so in my emotional state, I knew I am the only variable that I have control over. I am the only one that can change the way that I am currently feeling, and I need it to change. And like, there's nothing else. I have no control over nothing else in this situation. There is nothing I can do. I can physically do to change what's happening, but I can ask myself questions. I can ask myself what I want. I can ask myself where this is hurting and why is it hurting and what can I do to not necessarily prevent this same hurt, but What can I do to lead myself in a direction that doesn't expose me to this same hurt? How can I step forward into the future in a way that gives me the opportunity to be loved the way that I deserve to be loved? That is what I wanted. I was like, because it was so much around like this romantic situation that didn't work out. And I was just like, but it's not about that. It wasn't even about that relationship at all. Had nothing to do with it. It's about the fact that I want relationship. It's not about what I don't want. It's about what I do want. So I sat there and said, what can I do to give myself the opportunity? And this was really the next morning, because it was like a little like weekend. And so the next morning I'm having coffee again. Everybody's having coffee inside and watching golf and playing games. And I was like, I'm going to go sit on the porch. So I went and sat on the porch and was like, why did this hurt, Holland? What are you afraid of? What about this situation makes you so afraid of yourself, of love, of opportunity, of connection, of that deep, almost like intrinsic spark with someone? Like, what makes you afraid of those things now? And how can we move forward in a way that you're willing to open yourself to that again? Because you deserve to have that, Holland. Like, I'm talking to myself here saying, like, you deserve to have that connection, that spark, that love, that joy, that passion. But right now it's really scary to me to have that, because it's resulted in pain time and time again. So what can I do to change? What can I do to open myself to that in a way that is healthy? And letting myself really sit in the way I was literally bleeding, like sitting there like, okay, clearly I need to let go of things and open my mind to what can be rather than what has been.
I loved what you said, is it wasn't about the person, it was about the desire for the relationship that you do care for. Yeah. That is the clincher, because I think it would be very easy to say, to point anger, hurt, whatever, towards a human. Not to like downplay the importance of humans, but when it comes to our own stories, so often, I think it's Zebroff did a ton of research on 26 love stories, and these ideas that we all have these little stories that we've conjured in our heads, and basically other people are just playing characters.
Oh, for sure.
Right? And so like, it's like a plug and play. It's like, oh, okay, come plug into my story. And
will you work in my story?
Yes. And it's okay. It's not always consensual, but what's fascinating is that we all have. The research was extensive, and he found that if all of the humans, it wasn't Zebroff, it was Sternberg. I don't know if I said that. He found that like all of these humans had 26. It culled down to 26 separate stories.
Wow.
And it's so cool. And I can't believe I've never told you about it before, because it's really fascinating and you love story. But it's things like the gardener, and relationships are to be nurtured, and the quilter, relationships are meant to be stitched together. I'll see if I can find it. But this idea that you're just looking for something and deserving of something. And just because a human in the world doesn't provide us with that thing that we want, with the story that we want to live, it's not actually their fault.
No.
And what do we need to do to make room to set ourselves up for those relationships that we do want? Which is a harder conversation.
Way harder. But I will always say, I've said it before, you are the main character in your story. As silly and, Instagram worthy as that phrase is, you really are. Like, no one else has your perspective. No one else lives your life. Your life, you're the main character, as silly as it sounds. And everybody else kind of is just a side character. You've got your other main characters, for sure. But, like, it's your life.
I'm not going to read all 26 because we'd be here for forever. Number 1, addiction. Love is a form of addiction that involves anxious attachment, clinging, and anxiety of losing one's partner. 2, art. One's partner is to be aesthetically beautiful, a work of art, something lovely to look at. 3, business. Relationships are a business arrangement where strategic partnership can lead to increased wealth and power for everyone involved. 4, collection. A partner is expected to easily fit into life with many other elements in a way that prioritizes completion, collecting a set of life's accomplishments, and de-emphasizes establishing emotional closeness with them. 5, cookbook. Love is viewed as needing to follow a certain recipe. Any deviations from this exact sequence are unwelcome. 6, fantasy. One party rescues the other. Most traditionally, the white knight saves the princess and they live happily ever after. 7, views relationships as a game or sport. 8, gardening. Loving relationships take upkeep and care. They need to be continually nurtured and tended to like a garden. It goes on and on. Government, history, horror.
We'll link it below.
It's fascinating. Really fascinating. Theater, love follows a script. I mean, it's just really neat to think. I know some of those sound like, probably to everybody, there were certain ones that like affronting. I love it because I will sign it to partners and work, and they will like Enneagram like everything else, right? Mm-hmm. Some will be like, well, who would think that whole thing?
Your partner.
Uh-huh. Which is wild
mm-hmm.
and such a good exercise and not yucking someone's yum
mm-hmm.
because yeah, just be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it with partners in the room and they've thought the exact same thing. Like, that's weird. Or I know what so-and-so's going to say and it's wrong because I think we often project onto other people like, oh, that's what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what you're saying. Like, yeah, it's our stories.
Mm-hmm.
Our stories. It's wild.
And it's interesting to me how aligned it can all feel. I mean, all of this happening on a full moon with my bleeding beginning, like all of these things, to me, I don't really believe in coincidence. I think that's something that most faith practices have in common. This is not one giant effing coincidence that all of this happened at once. I truly see so much purpose in it. And it brings me such peace and comfort to know that it is not just chaos, that there is a beautiful tapestry being woven and I am just a piece. I am truly so honored to be like, oh, this is important enough to the tapestry of the earth that something has to happen to me.
Yes.
Because if it's dominoes, if this doesn't happen to me, if I don't make this choice, if I don't feel this the way that I am intended to feel it in this body, in this time, in this mindset, then other things don't fall into place. And however I react, however I do, I'm sure it's however it was meant to be.
Yes. Yeah, there's no script that you need to then follow.
No.
There's no like, well, if I don't do this right.
No, I'm just the person who was meant to do it. And I'm going to do it the way that I need to do it.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes we understand the lesson in the moment. Sometimes we look back and we go, oh, wow, that led to that, led to that, led to that. Mm-hmm. And we needed all of those little mini steps to arrive where we're going. But if I hadn't listened then, Trey was saying this morning on the partnership podcast that, well, you know, one of the things he was attracted to was that I had built a business and gotten acquired. I was now traveling, doing big business lady things. And I was just giggling in my mind while he was saying this because I built that business that he was referencing as like a plea of my heart, as something to do while I was in an abusive relationship. I did use my skills. It literally was my life's work. And then it got acquired when I was at the depths of despair. And it came from a newspaper article being written that was only written because my now ex-husband was texting me abusive things. And every time he would, I would think it would buzz in my pocket. And I would say to the reporter, another need we had. Mm-hmm. And had I not been so bold, like we need $40,000. Right? She was like, tell me, what does your organization need? Like, shout out. Hi, if you listen to this podcast, you're my lifesaver. And she knows this. She knows how my life changed from this article. But if my phone had not buzzed when she would ask things like that, I would just like, it was like vomit, like $40,000. And what are like some more tangible needs? Well, we're losing our building next week. Okay, that. This other COO read this article in Richmond and was like, hey.
We could do that.
Wait, what do you need? you're cool. And then that was May, by November, we were acquired. And then there had been this nonprofit storytelling conference that I had wanted to attend my entire time building the organization because I love telling stories and I loved their mission and their work. And I had always wanted to go. And one of the first things they told us when they acquired us was, oh, yeah, and then one of the things we do is go to this storytelling conference. And I was like, what? Yeah. So then so I was acquired January 1st, 2019 was like the official acquisition, even though we were working before then. And then the storytelling conference was October 2019. And by that point, yes, I was doing big business lady things. And that's when I flew to San Diego and met my now husband. But like all of those things wouldn't have happened if all of the other things hadn't happened, if I hadn't let go of a freaking marriage. I mean, it's just wild. And I think so often we simplify it down, right? And we want the results so quickly. And I understand the human desire for that because we don't want to feel like that.
No.
But I had so many tearful experiences just like you had in the midst of that. And they were also necessary.
Oh, absolutely. I think I would not even be on the same playing field of who I am as a person if I had not been through so much abuse at 15. If I had not been in that one relationship that destroyed me,
right,
that destroyed the person that I thought I wanted to be, I would not be here. I would not be this person.
No.
And like, no, I shouldn't have had to go through that.
Not at all. Not at all. Does not pardon, condone, excuse for 1 millisecond.
At all. But it's my story. And it is why I am the woman that I am today. And it is why I'm so goddamn formidable and why people don't believe me when I say I'm 23. It is why I am here in fucking Virginia. Yeah. That is why I am the woman that I am. And I could never have wanted it any other way. And I truly believe that it is part of this gigantic tapestry of the history of mankind.
Yes.
Womankind. And
I want you to be seen for all of those pieces that you are. Yeah. And I think it takes humans, not just it takes humans who have also done the work to be able to sit and hold space for a person with a story like yours. It's not tasty, palatable to everyone. It's just not. And that's okay. But people with stories like ours, a New York Times author once called us second mountain people.
Second mountain people.
We find our second mountain people. And they're so relieved for all of us, right? Like the folks who have survived what you've survived need the yous. The human beings in this world who appreciate strong, formidable women understand that it usually comes with a story. And for those that we are not palatable to, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. But it is going to feel like rejection. It is going to feel discomfortable. It's not really uncomfortable.
There you go. Sorry.
And those can feel so similar, right? Not being right for a space can so feel like rejection. And that's hard. It's really hard.
But it brings us to the right people. And I think, being understood and being valued for every piece of who you are, not just the really easygoing upfront surface, is so important to me, at least, and to us as a business. Yes. Honestly, I think that's why this business runs the way it does, is because we have never been the type of people, you have never been the type of person to say, oh, we're perfect and pretty and easy.
No.
We tell you that we're fucking up. We tell you this is hard.
We are a human-run company.
We've changed my title 3 times in the past year. Like, we're not trying to be palatable. We're not trying to be easy. We aren't for the people who want easy, to be quite fucking honest with you. If you want to work with us, be ready for humanity.
Yes.
Be ready for us to try our hardest and do really well, but also make a mistake or two and then apologize for it.
And which then enables us within our own capacity, because that's how we view ourselves and lead with that. This is never a surprise to clients, and they'd be like, To then say to a client the same thing. When we get a client reschedule and they say, hey, it's because I didn't have time to do my homework. Thanks for understanding. They do that the week before and we're like, great. Or we get a client who shows up who's like, I had no capacity for homework this week. And we say, amazing. Because you're a human.
Yeah.
And this is a human business. Now, do we try our best at all times to provide absolute top quality and transformational education? Yes, but that is not perfection. That is not it. We want to constantly evolve, and I think that means having generative understandings that you grow and you learn. And sometimes we learn through mistake. And that can be the best teacher. I think we all remember that campaign that went viral where that intern set out the wrong email or something.
Yes.
What was it for? It was a big company.
HBO Max?
I mean, it was like, I think it was.
I think it was Max.
And then the response was just so gracious.
Sorry, the intern sent something out. Yeah.
We all took joy in that because people took accountability.
Yes.
We are not a company that tries to bury little things that we've done wrong. If an invoice is sent incorrectly, our bad. We will do our best never to let that happen again, because it is not okay to just confess your wrongdoing and expect grace, forgiveness, compassion right away without accountability. No, changed behavior. But I think that's what folks get to see here too is, oh, whoa, they're very human, but also they are changing because there's freedom to do that. Yes. It's not, oh, you do wrong, you're gone. Yeah.
Our excellence and success do not come at the cost of humanity. We are fully humble in our mistakes and accidents.
Hopefully, clients, you let us know, but that we try to educate on that exact principle so often, so that if we were to violate a agreement of consent, that a client would be well within their rights to say that deliverable was not provided to me within the time that you said it would be. That is a violation because we came to this agreement of consent. And then we would say, yes, and you should cease being our client because that is our bad stop boundary, right? Oh, this makes me think of something we were saying earlier where I was thinking about boundaries as you were sitting there journaling and thinking about how boundaries are for us, not for other people, right? Mm-hmm. That sometimes it's an internal boundary, right? You had almost made this little force field around you while you were journaling, and that was for you. Mm-hmm. So often we make boundaries so offensive now because we lost our abilities to communicate. But I think there can be these little micro boundaries that we put up all the time. And even within our business, we have like all these like 1 strike, 2 strike, like this is what happens. The first time you like miss a session, right? Oh my goodness, Grace, these things happen. The second time, we're going to give you a warning. The third time, you're going to have a fee incurred because our time is valuable. We're humans. We deserve these types of things. And I just thought of that micro boundary that you had set for yourself and thought that's applicable in all senses. I wanted to read, we can close out, but I thought this was really beautiful. On the full moon, I pulled some tarot cards, and to close out the Witchy podcast, I thought it was appropriate that I pulled these two together, the Star and the Queen of Pentacles. And I looked up a lot of different sites on what does it mean if you pull the Star and the Queen of Pentacles together. And this is what I found. When the Star and Queen of Pentacles appear together in a reading, they suggest that one's abundance or success is a result of faith, hard work, and an unshakable belief in oneself. The combination indicates financial and emotional abundance, as well as a sense of purpose, contentment, and satisfaction. The pairing suggests that challenges are being overcome or have been overcome, and the individual is living their best life, grounded in a sense of nurturing and caring energy. The combination also signifies leadership and suggests that the individual is leading by example, inspiring and nurturing others to reach their full potential.
Again, why the universe is really just saying, you.
But like, I think if I had pulled those two and then had not had the hard conversations that you and I had had the weeks before, it wouldn't have hit. And
I don't think you would have pulled it. I would
have pulled them. Yes, exactly. But to pull these on a full moon that was about revisiting, right? It's your 1 year anniversary of being here. We've just done all of this revisiting. And then to read that, and literally the day, Saturday, I had several clients where we were really talking about values and getting back to us. And I was talking about Jack Moran's 7 Steps to Sexual Healing and how it's clarify your goals and motivations, cultivate self-affirmation, then into the gray zone, and then mourn your losses and risk the unexpected, and then integrate your discoveries. And I was telling clients that, you know, when I started this business years ago, I thought I'd do like group classes. I thought I would like do different shit. And then I found out, no, what people really wanted from me is safe containers to sit individually or with their partner or partners. And that now that it took mourning. It took mourning to be like, oh, well, that's sad. I put together all these classes that nobody wants. Oh, that's sad. That's not how I imagined it. Oh, that's sad. Now I'm going to have to develop that. And now I am blown away by the synchronicity that I get to sit in day after day. It is like these clients sit before me in person or on Zoom, and I'm like, oh my God. But yes, I now get to lead through nurturance and care and example. But that didn't just happen. It wasn't like I was just like, Allah, I'm here to serve that way. No, it took trial and error. It took struggle. It took seasons of transition. My whole first year. I mean, just insane transition. Anyway, witchy woo woo magic. What would you say top thing you are learning through this full moon?
That I'm wiser than I was. And then I probably am even currently capable of understanding. Learning to trust myself and my intuition. What about you?
Sorry, I just think it's also cool that you published your first blog. That's so amazing. Also right before this. Stepping into a thing that we've both known you were capable of. It just needed to happen, and it happened in this timing. Sorry. Just wild. Also thought about that. So if you guys haven't read, please go read it. It might have some like catchy clickbait title because she's the queen of those, but it's also really darn helpful and beautiful and incredible. Things that I'm learning or have learned through the full moon. That what is meant for me, for this business, for my clients, will come in the exact timing that it is meant to come. Mm-hmm. That my job is to nurture my garden, to tend my garden, and flourish there so that others see and come when they are ready. I have no business doing anything else. Just tend to my garden. That the timing will unfold as long as I answer what is mine to do. And sometimes that is difficult conversations with my precious employee and friend. And sometimes that's crying because, you know, a client's story is hard. And sometimes that looks like hermiting and being all alone. Sometimes it looks like signing up for a new certification. As long as I can listen to that, things will happen in exactly the timing that they're meant to.
Lovely.
You want to close this out?
Sure. These are all opinions and our own experiences. If you don't like it, that's totally fine. You don't have to watch. You can also send us an email at admin@sexedforyou.com. If it's nice, I'll answer. The way you that landed on me.
My throat is stuck. It's like a cramp in my throat. I have to be careful.
Oh god.
I'm so sorry. It's all over the floor.
It's literally just water. It's fine.
It's just water.
Oh my god. I can smell it.
Black cherry. Oh my god.
Okay.
So truthful. If it's not kind, we're not responding. She's not responding.
Just gonna block you.
That's my...
I mean, you can give us criticism.
Yeah,
just
but
deliver it
criticism
kindly.
is not unkindness. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I'm
this
very
is why
honest.
I know. It's why I need you. The amount of emails I've been like, and then we could just say, and she's like, or we could just write the truth. Like, that's a good idea.
Honesty and authenticity are my 2 top values.
Yeah. And
sure.
Brene Brown's always saying clear is kind. Anyway. I'm gonna back out now.
If you would like to schedule a free consult, you can go to sexedforyou.com/free consult.
With me, I'm nice.
With Lauren, she is nicer than I am.
But if you don't fill out the request form nicely, she will also block you.
I won't block you. I'll just be like, send me more info. Anywho, follow us on Instagram at sex_ed_for_you and go peruse our new free downloads section of our website, because I reorganized our shop link and now there's all this free stuff that you can get.
We really believe in that too, y'all. We really believe in providing this podcast on all of these platforms and free downloads and a Hemlock membership program that's just $10 a month, so that if you're not in a place where you want to or can invest in individual sexuality education or partnered sexuality education, that you still get yourself some help.
You can get some tools.
You so can get some tools.
Yeah.
God, we mentioned so many books on this podcast alone that you could learn just from this podcast.
And use code Witchy to download whatever download it was that I told you could have. Oh, mindful menstruation questions.
Yep, just the question.
Code Witchy. Okay, that's it.
That's it.
Goodbye.
Bye, y'all.